I need to hear from you. Now, everybody is on mute, Ramon, but I heard you got a good job. Congratulations. I know you'll kill it. Happy for you. Hi, Jane. And there you have it. All right. Age, can we turn that down? And let's turn it up. Okay. People will be straggling in, but let's get it going. Hello, everybody. Thank you for once again joining us. It's, I guess it's 5 p.m. on the West Coast, and now I'm on the East Coast where it's 8 p.m., 8:02 actually, and that could only mean one thing. It's time for another episode of The Yard. In addition to us broadcasting here on our Zoom channel, we're at the same time being seen on Facebook Live, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. And this is being recorded where people can view these on YouTube. And soon, as I announced a couple of weeks ago, we're going to be on hundreds of thousands of tablets that are in jails and prisons by lots and lots of our brothers and sisters who are currently incarcerated. So we're very, very excited about that. The Yard, as some of you know, is a production of Commissary Club. Commissary Club is the first social network for 70 million Americans with criminal records, along with their family and friends. Excuse me, I'm getting over a bad cold. My name is Richard Bronson. I am the founder and CEO of Commissary Club, as well as 70 Million Jobs, which is the national employment platform for folks with records. I am joined, as always, by a very dear friend and teammate, the big man himself, a perennial all-star in the NBA at the LA Lakers, where he played with a young Kobe Bryant and made magic. There is lots of talk about him being voted into the Hall of Fame soon.
Yeah, lots of talk by you. That's about it.
Well, I got a big mouth. And incidentally, this is a piece of late breaking news. It's also Seth's birthday today. So we all wish the big man, number 7 feet tall. We wish him the happiest and healthiest and most wonderful birthdays. And thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Seth,
Sweet
great
16. I'm excited to be able to drive now.
Now you can drive and drink. We normally would also, I would normally be introducing our good friend Divine, but I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I'm sure he'll be joining us momentarily. But Divine, of course, is a noted entrepreneur and hip hop artist of some acclaim. He also seems to be on every podcast I turn to. So maybe he's wrapping up another podcast right now. But in any event, we'll find out soon enough, I'm sure. Before we get started, tonight's going to be, oh, sorry. I left out the woman who sort of pulls the strings around here and makes the trains run on time. And that, of course, is the wonderful, fabulous Adrian Hatter, who, without whom this would be a complete and utter mess. So thank you, Adrian. Before we get started and I introduce our amazing guest, as I always mention, we've got a lot going on at both Commissary Club and 70 Million Jobs. And these are essentially two divisions of the one parent company. as I mentioned last week, our employment business at 70 million jobs is rocking right now. You know, companies are finding it incredibly hard to fill positions. I'm sure everybody reads about this. And with a community of about 11 million, we can provide access to all these big employers with this largely ignored pool of talent. And, you know, it just turns out, and often surprises employers, but it turns out that this pool of talent, actually, not only are they available, but they also do very well on the job. You know, because they don't have many options. If they get something and it's reasonably a good situation, they're not going to mess it up. They're going to work hard. They're going to come in every day, appreciative. They show their loyalty. They stick around. And, you know, they're really, some of them are just incredible workers. And I say that because we hear it from the employers every day. We've helped thousands of these folks get jobs, and it's a source of incredible pride for me that I have the honor, you know, to work with them, because these folks really deserve, you know, having somebody in their corner, and particularly when they have families and kids, you know, they get a job and they can not only put food on the table, but take their kids to the doctor and maybe take their wife out to the movies once in a while and lead, you know, be as human beings. You know, it just feels incredibly good. So, you know, we're all very appreciative. We have our, as I mentioned, we have our job board, and our social network soon will be appearing on hundreds of thousands of tablets in prisons and jails across the country. Nobody has ever had this opportunity before. And, you know, we just think it's both very cool, and it'll give us an opportunity to work with people early on in, you know, planning for their reentry, and that it should be a successful one. And that they should be thinking about what's going to happen when they get out, and where they're going to work, and what their options are. So we will be doing a lot of educating and helping and putting together resumes and letting them know what jobs are out there so that they can hit the ground running. Additionally, as I mentioned before, we are partnering with Meek Mill and his record label, which is part of Rock Nation. And they're all very, very excited to have the opportunity to access, you know, our people in prison and out. They want to find lyricists who can write words for Meek and some of his fellow artists for upcoming songs and albums of theirs. And they're also looking to actually sign artists for their label. So that'll be pretty darn cool, I think. I mentioned that we were lucky in that we had a impact fund that is investing $2.5 million in our company. We're not a charity, we're a for-profit business. And we believe that investors will make a lot of money as things play out. I think we'll get acquired within a couple of years, and I think we'll get acquired at a much higher price where we are right now, so that those who have invested will be significantly rewarded for their faith in our company. Back to the yard. Like Commissary Club, our goal is to connect people. You know, I say this all the time. And for people to discover one another, to serve as role models, even to inspire one another. You know, and that people who haven't had experience in the criminal justice system should understand that people who have done time or are doing time, they're not animals, they're not immoral. You know, they're just people. Some of them screwed up when they were young. Some of them, like our guest last week, who did almost 20 years for a murder and rape that he did not commit. He was wrongfully convicted. But many of these people in jail and prison, they're just human beings. You know, they want the same things as anybody else. And, you know, they're far from animals. That was certainly an observation I had when I was in prison. So what we want to do is we take you out sort of metaphorically to this place in prison that every prison has, and it's called the Yard. And it's a place where you can just sort of hang out, where there are no guards bothering you, and where you don't have to eat the food, and there's no, pressure, and you could just spend time with the friends you've made, arguing, yelling, laughing, playing ball, whatever. You can be a human being, in other words. We ask everybody, please, if you've got questions or comments, we urge you to use the chat feature at the bottom of the screen. But we try, at least initially through the broadcast, to focus on the experience that people have had in prison or jail, as opposed to before or after. Now, almost all of our guests are involved with really cool stuff having been released. And tonight's guest is no exception, and we will get to the work that he does and, all this amazing stuff that he's into. But we want to focus on what was that experience. Everybody's experience is different, and we want to hear as many as we can. So try to sort of confine your questions or comments or, whatever to the in-prison experience. If you want to join the conversation, let Adrian know, and we'll try to get you in on that. So what we do, for the benefit of those who haven't done this before, we do this every time, and I ask you all to sort of bear with me and trust me a little bit. First, what I'd like everybody to do, please, is just shut your eyes. Just close your eyes and just take a real deep breath. And slowly let your breath out. It's been a long day. And just sort of let your mind wander. Just fill your brain up with a little oxygen. Now, every episode, excuse me, of The Yard, I try to paint a picture or relay experiences that show how easy it is for almost anybody to get caught up in the criminal justice system. Some of it is because people broke the law. Some of it is, as I mentioned, they were unjustly or wrongfully incarcerated. Some of them were pressured into accepting a plea agreement because they felt like if they risked going to trial to assert their innocence, if they failed, they'd throw the book at them. I mentioned Meek Mill earlier. And I don't know, some of you may know what his story is and his experiences, but his experience is really not all that different than a lot of people, whereby his experience with the criminal justice system has a lot to do with technical violations that keeps or has kept landing him in jail or prison. Meek Mill was 19 years old and he was arrested. He was a kid. And it wasn't a serious crime. He was a first-time offender, and the judge decided he didn't need to serve any time. He received 3 years of probation, whereby if he stayed out of trouble, they'd end up expunging the arrest, and he could go on with his life. He became a very successful hip-hop artist very quickly. And, as you can imagine, the paparazzi, the photographers, were constantly hounding him wherever he went. And I've never had that experience, but I imagine that can be trying at times. And apparently at one point, one of these photographers got a little too aggressive, a little too close with him, and Meek punched the guy. He didn't shoot him, he didn't kill him, he just punched him. But this was considered a violation of his probation, and he was sent to jail for this. Then another night after he got out of jail, he was out with a bunch of friends, and they were playing around on some motorcycles. And Meek was riding a motorcycle, which he was legally okay with doing. And he popped the wheelie on the motorcycle. You remember what a wheelie is? You lean back and you let the front wheel comes up, and you're just, zooming along on the back wheel. Well, somehow or another, the cops were watching, I guess, and they considered that what he did was a case of reckless endangerment. And once again, breaking that law of reckless endangerment on a motorcycle meant that once again, he got sent to jail. This sort of thing has been going on with him for 11 years now with no end in sight. And it's all because of these very technical violations. Other technical violations that frequently happen is you're not supposed to be drinking. And okay, you had a beer with some friends and your probation officer found out about it. You violated, you're back in jail. You were supposed to have an appointment. And for whatever reason, you missed the appointment. You're back in jail. They're all violations, but honestly, I mean, come on. Are they really so bad that you want to throw people back into jail or prison where there is a huge risk that they could get into much more trouble? And yet tens of thousands of men and women rot away every day in jails, and they're not for committing a bad crime, but for very narrow technical violations. And I can tell you personally that if you're had any dealings with the criminal justice system, there's this feeling that you just can't get out of your own way. You can't get out of the system, that at any minute, something fairly benign could happen. And there's a cop there and you're going to end up in handcuffs before you know it. And it can be pretty surreal. I mean, I want to share with you an experience that I went through that for me was pretty surreal. I did a couple of years of federal prison, and then I had 3 months in a halfway house in the South Bronx. The day after I got out, I was at my sister's apartment in Manhattan, minding my own business, and the doorbell rang. And it was 2 New York City detectives there, and they came to arrest me. And I said, what? I've been out literally for less than 24 hours. What could I have possibly done that you need to arrest me? Well, it turns out before my federal case got going, my life was sort of spinning out of control. I had a rental car and I used a credit card, of course, to pay for the rental car. My credit card got maxed out and technically I was in violation of the terms of my lease of the rental car. And the rental company reported the car stolen. And I was arrested. This happened in Miami. I was arrested. Now, my sister, my sainted sister, who has always been in my corner, she paid the bill, and the judge agreed that if I stayed out of trouble, again, they'd expunge the arrest. Okay, fine. It turns out that while I was in federal prison, the judge wanted me to appear a few years later just to make sure that I had stayed out of trouble. And the only problem was I was locked in a federal prison and no one notified me I had this court appearance. So I was a no-show. So the judge issued a bench warrant that existed for several years until I got out, and then somehow or another it popped up on the computer. And the cops, the day after I got out, arrested me, and I got sent to Rikers Island. And if anybody here has ever been there, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it, but that is a bad, bad place, and nothing good goes on there. I was lucky I wasn't killed there. I mean, for a technical violation that I really had no control over. So this is the kind of shit that goes on. It's Kafka-esque, you know? And I don't consider myself a bad person. I know Meek Mill doesn't consider himself a bad person. Seth doesn't. Most of the people I know with records don't. And I include the person now that finally I'm going to introduce everybody to, because he ain't a bad person either. So everybody please now open your eyes. And once again, I want you to join Seth and myself and our guest out on the yard. And our guest that I'd like to introduce, his name is Paine the Poet. Paine as in Thomas Paine the poet. Paine is a spoken word artist. He's a poet, he's an actor, he's a hip hop artist, and he's a very powerful educator and activist whose mission really is to connect disenfranchised folks to society so that they can lead full and satisfying lives, kind of like what we're after as well. He did an 8-year bid, and then when he got out, he's had the opportunity to speak at the US Capitol, at the NFL, at the National Gallery of Art. So you could imagine we're very, very honored and very appreciative that he's joining us on the yard. Payne the Poet, welcome, sir.
Peace, man. I'm happy to be here.
We're thrilled to have you, and you are our first poet.
Oh,
So
that's great. That's great.
you'll forgive us if we don't know how to act around poets.
And
But
it's interesting that you said like Thomas Paine, because that's part of why I went with the Paine, because I read in prison, I read Common Sense. And he talked about how their government just did anything to him and the people just let it happen. And it was just kind of like it meant something to me. And then the Paine stands for people afraid in need of escape. So from reading Thomas Paine Common Sense, I looked at how that was spelled, and then I built it from there. And I'm Payne the Poet.
now you are Payne the Poet. Now, again, we've never had a poet on before, so I've never had reason to sort of make this request, but I did ask you a little bit before we went on. To start things off, could we impose upon you for you to hit us with something that you've wrote and that we could get a feel for exactly what your work is all about?
Oh yeah, definitely. This poem is called Please Don't Judge Us. Just vibe with me, just take it in. After you hear this, you're gonna know a lot about me to start this conversation. Please don't judge us. No. You see, a lot of us were only victims of the ones that love us. A lot of us had wayward fathers. Some of us had undereducated mothers. I even know dudes that hustle with cousins all dealing with brothers, but we just the victims of the ones that love us. So please, don't judge us. We only wanted to accept us. So as adolescents, we fell fast to familiar faults and all the foul perception. We used to think that drugs would get us paid and we'll pray that pistols protect us. We used to know no other life than the life lived by others before us. So then we'd run in circles for any feeling of fortune while being mindlessly moved by the minor materials, mainly because as kids, we think it's important. I remember feeling like the drug dealer was supportive. This the dude that drove me to school. He bought me the Jordans. He taught me money over everything. The dollar's important, and we were conditioned to see that working a job was hard, but the old heads got checks for unemployment. And no matter what, we never were told to trust any member of the law enforcement. They never had nothing for us. We just used to watch them take family from us. No matter how many times we try to tell them he's just a victim of the ones that love him, no matter how hard we beg them to please, don't judge him. They never understand. This all started as babies, bottles and pampers. A lot of us were the sons of fathers that's absent and followed examples. If she's the daughter of a promiscuous mother, that little girl may not know what love is. It's a vicious cycle. So many of us get caught in its clutches, and so many of us will soon have kids that are destined to suffer, and it hurts looking in the eyes of those kids that the heart's destiny touches. Staring at the back of the squad car when they arrest us and cuff us. Fresh out the frying pan into an oven and heat on 400. We're raising a fire that aids our destruction. We're raising a world where it's all of us nothing. We was raised by mothers who always wanted marriage, but see, they never could trust it. They were always victims of the ones that love them. But please, don't judge them. Don't call our mama's products of the projects. They fall beyond that. I put my palm on my chest, my hand with my heart, and I swear to God we try. It's just that the reality of the world said us is a lie, and the only way we can live is to fight for our lives in a cold-ass world. It's the same place we see rap songs raise our sons, and Jerry Springer and Moy, they done fathered our girls. And the judicial system, shit. See, they allow a judge to slam a gavel and say a verdict that takes the dad from a son just decide they don't deserve him. It's wild. The court system is purposely picked the person that picks out to point the fingers at people as if they worthless. Beneath the surface, they pattern themselves as perfect when judges and prosecutors are put in places that hurt us. And it's clear they think we're irrelevant. I done seen a rich offender get a slap on the wrist, but a 17-year-old black kid in a clear case of self-defense get hit with the shit they hit Mandela with. To say we're treated equal, you got to be insult my intelligence. And I apologize to my family for my incarceration. I spent 8 years going. It was 8 years long, and I was wrong. I tried to explain that I succumbed to circumstances far beyond my knowledge's reach, and that resulted into my actions extending the distance further than my understanding could see. It was back against the wall, suffocated under circumstances, and y'all, I needed money to eat. But thinking about it now leaves this sour taste in my mouth, because making it out may have been more probable than previously perceived, but in moments of stress, your reflex overpowers contemplation and situations deceive. So shit, hindsight can't accurately express what I had momentarily believed. It was back against the wall, suffocated under circumstances, and dog, I needed money to breathe. I'm just grateful that my family still loved me. I'm even more grateful that they prayed to a Lord above me in a world so ugly. And I just ask that all y'all do the same. Please don't judge me. Peace.
Yeah.
Dope.
Appreciate that.
That's dope.
That was
Appreciate that.
amazing. I think maybe we should just end it right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Good
Mic
night,
drop.
everybody.
Appreciate
See you
that.
next week. I don't know what you know. I'm really touched and moved. And thank you so much for sharing that. You know, we sort of sprung it on you, you know, at the last minute, but that was just so powerful. And
Oh.
you know, talking about your mother, you know, please don't judge her. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that love is
That was
so thank you so much for sharing that. All right, so let's get started, you know, like where this journey started for you regarding the criminal justice system. You were arrested for a gun charge, right?
Gun charges and armed robberies.
An armed robbery. How old were you when that was going on?
About 19.
19.
19, yeah.
All right, if you don't mind me asking, how many robberies did you participate in?
All right, so that over a span, I'm gonna say over a spring. Over a spring. Because it was from March to June. And everything went like a blur, like every time the money ran out, we went and got more. That night, like whatever, if we had a plan, we were like, oh, we about to go out, we need the outfits, we need to get a room. Everything that we wanted to do, we went and got it and then did it. You know what I'm saying? So like where I was at, the location I was at, where I live at now, I live in the Southern Peninsula of Virginia, and this area is called the Seven Cities. So it consists of 7 cities packed together to the point where it's kind of like one place. So it's Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, Hampton, Newport News, and Suffolk. Like all these places are so close together, but they all have their own jail and police jurisdiction, right? So what ended up happening is if you rip through the cities doing all kind of stuff, it's like apparently they don't really communicate well. So that kind of like prolonged it. And then
So how many total do you think you pulled off?
oh man. Without saying too much, I'm gonna say it was more than what I put it. I'm blessed.
Okay, all right, I
I'm not
got you.
supposed to be here right now. So so even with the 2 robberies I had and a set of 2 gun charges, I was threatened with 47 years. So what I've learned, this is the most vicious part of the whole thing in my mind. You can pay for a lawyer. That paid lawyer thing, that doesn't really mean anything, right? What it means is when they go to negotiate your trade, because it's trade-offs. When I say I'm not saying that I was innocent. What I'm saying is you don't go to prison for committing crimes all the time.
Yeah.
That makes any sense. Like there are people who have committed crimes and they did not go to prison because of legal flexibility, like how the gray areas, like how you can go through a trial, but that process is not available to everybody. That opportunity is not available to everybody, whether you pay for a lawyer or not. It's just not how it is. Like so, scraped up some money. I ain't getting no bail. I was denied bail, and these were my first charges. I always thought. They told me, "Oh, this is the crazy part." So, I was charged with use of a firearm in commission of a felony and armed robbery, right? I had 2 charges. I'm in the jail for 2 weeks, and I'm gonna talk about the jail, like what that part was like right after I get to the charging part. I had a court-appointed attorney while I still had people on the street trying to scramble together the money to get, you know what I'm saying, for the attorney. And the only thing I wanted to do is get me a bond hearing. I already told him, I was like, we getting a paid lawyer. I don't even need you for the case. You don't even got to ask me no questions about that. Just get the bond hearing. Just figure the bond hearing out. You know what I'm saying? And that's all you got to do. And the night before I was set to go to the bond hearing, the detectives came to the jail. And okay, this is I don't know everybody's jail experience, but I'm gonna tell you this: while you in the jail, if the detectives come and get you, that's that don't look good. And then they bring you back, you don't want to see that. And they get you at like odd times, so that people know that they didn't got you out. So they'll come at like 9 at night while everybody playing cards, moving around and stuff. And when somebody call you out in a jail, not penitentiary, in the jail, you get called out. Oh yeah, everybody noticed that because you don't get out in jail. You don't walk. Ain't no free movement in jail. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when they call you out in jail, everybody noticed that. So I don't know what they're calling me out for. You know, so I go. They take me down. Down here they call it POC, Police Operations Center. That's where the detectives is at. So they bring me back in the room. They say, "Hey, we hear you got a bond hearing tomorrow. Well, we got 2 more charges for you. Every time you go for a bond hearing, I'll give you 2 more charges from now until Christmas." And mind you, this is June. So apparently they had an inkling of what I was involved in, but they just wanted to play with me. So for me going for that bond hearing, I got the other 2 charges, and it stopped me from ever going back up for a bond hearing again because they were going to keep hitting me. I knew in my mind that they could keep adding them on, and I didn't know how I could like get out of it. I was already on some, I'm not saying that shit. Like they didn't get me like first 48. They didn't trick me into saying nothing. They just was hitting me with the charges and I ain't know what to do. So when the lawyer finally came, I talked to him, blah. Then like my heart jumped because I'm walking through the jail. They let us go through the jail. I see one of the dudes that was part of the team. And I'm like, what are you doing in here? Because if he's in here, they know about some whole other stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? They know about, like, you know what I'm saying? What are you getting charged with? Because I was probably there. Like, so what are you, like, what is going on? So we like eyes, but we don't, you know, in the jail, when they moving you through the jail, you don't get, you know, it ain't, I don't know everybody else's situation. My situation, you don't get to just kick it. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything you got to say is quick, or you got to get a hard man to pass the kite, and then you got to hope. It's 9 times out of 10 somebody you don't know. I'm not from where I'm in the jail at, so that's a kicker. That makes so much of a difference. If you get locked up where you're not from, it's a whole different set of time doing time. It's a whole It's like when you get locked up somewhere you're not from, it's a whole other ball game. When you live in a city forever and then you get locked up, it's really not that bad as it could be. Because you familiar, you're so familiar. If you rip and run in the streets, the people that rip and run the streets go to jail. All of y'all rip and run together. So you come in, you know, you can get stuff moved. You can communicate more with people when you're going. You're more likely to see a familiar face, and things make transition easier. Nah, I didn't know anybody. So, well, I knew I ran across a couple of people. But anyway, long story short, Christmas Day in the jail, when they give you the special tray and everything, they said legal mail. And I go to the door. I'm in a Ford. I'm gonna get to the jail part, but they slide an envelope under the door, and I open it. And he said, here's the deal that they're offering, and it was 18 years with 8 active years and 10 suspended. And I was like, what? I was like, I'm thinking, because he said it, I'm gonna have to get a deal. That's when I found out about the 47 years. He said the state is looking at this amount of time. I said, what? And he was like, you know, robbery carries 5 to life in Virginia. I'm like, oh. So he said, he said I was lucky for 47. And so he told me that. And then when they passed that on, I'm thinking, he said he gonna give me a deal. I'm thinking like 3-4 years. Because mind you, he already told me in the state of Virginia, use of firearm commission of felony cannot be reduced to any other charges Immediately, almost immediately after I had that lawyer visit, a dude come in there, white dude come in there with the same charges except robbery. He had manslaughter because he shot somebody in front of Motel 6. And he got his gun charges reduced and he had a manslaughter. I was like, what? So my lawyer already just bold-faced lied to my face. You know what I'm saying? Because I had the same weapons charges, but I just didn't have the manslaughter. I had robbery. He got his weapons charges reduced, and he told me in Virginia, when you get used to a firearm and commission of a felony, you can't get it reduced. You can't. It's either found guilty. You know how some charges you can get brought to a lesser charge.
All right. So, you got your 8 years. You were in jail. At a certain point, they were shipping you off to prison, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you remember that day when you were going to prison?
Yeah. It was in August. It was August.
Okay.
I had been in the jail for about a year and a half. And in my perspective, jail is the worst part of your bid.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what Seth says, the same thing.
Jail is the worst part of your bid.
Why is Seth, explain why jail is worse than prison?
So multiple reasons, as Payne well knows too. But one of them is that there are people that are there for all kinds of different reasons, right? There are federal people, there are state people, there are people that are just dealing with addiction issues that are just kind of coming in and out, and like, you know, you see him committing petty stuff. I mean, there was one guy that was there. I remember, I'll never forget this. He comes in and he had just left a few days before. I did a year in county, right? So it's like, it is the absolute worst. Like, one of the other reasons is you're wearing somebody else's underwear, and I'm wearing pants that are too big and like, are too small, and like clam diggers, and looking real funny because there's only one size of clothes. But this guy he came in and he left, did about 2 weeks, left, came back in a couple of days later, and I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, he's like, man, I didn't have any place to go. So I kicked a pigeon in front of a cop to get arrested again.
Dang.
Wow. So when I say there's all types of people, I mean, there's all types of people.
I think the craziest thing to look at in a jail is there's a difference between people that are used to doing time and the people that just got time. So when you get in a prison and you get with people that are living life as they know it, it's a difference between the people that just figured out, oh, I'm never going home.
Right.
And you're there with them. Especially like when you're getting sent, when you got a charge you're going to prison, like I had a violent charge, so they put me on the violent floor. You up there with the murders, robbers, all that. You see everybody come back from court and you see what happened. And then you're still in there with them till they ship everybody. And the energy in the room, you can feel that tension. And some dudes snap when they get time. Because why not? If you give me 85 years, why follow a rule? Like what? What are you gonna do? Lock me up again? So it's like, so you there with all that.
For sure, that's a great point. Let me ask you something. Just because you mentioned tension, man. Like in the flow that you just dropped, right? Like, I mean, there's tension in there, right? Like there's like what you're expressing is like the tension of you growing up in certain scenarios, what you were exposed to, right? Things like that. I mean, we talked. So I got two questions for you. One is like, how do you process that? You know what I mean? You do it through your music, right? Like, and through your lyrics and everything that's going on, right? So are there other ways you process that you found that over, at the time, like, you're aware of it, right? So you're able to process it. So I assume awareness is a big part of that.
Are you talking about your own tension or the tension of others that could blow up at any second?
Both. Right. So some of it is aware and some of it is not aware, I imagine, right? Like, and then the second part of that is like, we talk a lot on the yard, right? About, you could have been still hustling and running through, ripping and running the streets, right? Like you could still be doing that now, right? But there's something that sparked a change, right? And we want to hear more about that. We can you can break those up or answer them however you want, man. I'm
Hey,
fascinated by that.
So that's a dope thing to think about. So what I found out, like what helped me is I found my shit. I found my thing. Like
Yeah,
I play with the words. I do this. Like I really do this with all my heart and soul and everything in me. And like, you know what I found out? Everybody's like that. And
yeah,
I found out when you approach people in admiration of their thing or what they do, it's like that's where you connect at. Like even I'm talking about you can get the most vicious dude in the world. Like he might be good at chess. You could be like, hey man, show me how you do that. You know what I'm saying? All the
yeah,
viciousness that's going because he's in his element. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like the confusion comes when you take people out of their element, either mentally, physically, whatever it is. So that's how I approach people when I come with that. I put my best foot forward in every situation. I come to you as an artist because that's what I am, and I want to find out who you are. And I think I
yeah,
bring that energy. I'm not uncomfortable around people because that's how I got comfortable with myself, being comfortable with people. You know what I'm saying? I'm a person just like you. So when I find out about you, I find about me too. Like,
yeah,
I found out like, hey, you know what I'm saying? He from here, but I'm from here, but we both like this. You know what I'm saying? We both,
yeah,
and then I'm talking about I really feel like when you go through that 19 between 19 25 years, those years, some people are in college. I was in prison. You know what I'm saying? Different, you know what I'm saying? You move, you go from home to a different social environment in both situations. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about prison and sometimes with college, some kids go from college, wild out, drop out, and then things don't work out. Some excel and
right,
become great things, or some get out of college and stuff go bad for them, and then nothing works out. Prison is the exact same way. Some dudes go
yeah,
in there and everything
yeah,
consume them. Everything consume 'em. Every pitfall you can fall in prison is meant for somebody because they going in it. And then some
yeah,
dudes, um, you find a way to be you in an environment where they trying to make you nothing, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I I really find a way dealing with that, thinking about my journey going from the jail to receiving the prison and how I had to navigate because I wasn't from
yeah,
Virginia. This is my first time in this, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then my conceptions of prison, I'm thinking like, dang, I remember when I was in Mecklenburg, I was in receiving. It was a dude on the yard. We was on the weight pile, and he joked with me. He said, "Man, what you about 165?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "You barbed wire weight." I said, "What?" He said, "You barbed wire weight." I said, "What's that?" He said, "That's when a dude could just grab you and throw you up in the fence like that, like yeah, throw you up in the fence." I said, "Oh man." He said, "You
That's
better get
barbed
your weight
wire.
up." He said,
That's
"Yeah,
great.
that's barbed
Hey,
wire weight."
hey, Payne, let me interrupt you. Divine has joined us. Hello, Divine.
Pete,
How you doing,
Peace,
everybody?
peace,
what
Sorry,
up,
I had
man?
peace.
difficulties. I'm out in the Berkshires, so it's like real spotty internet out here. Couldn't get on video earlier. Sorry about that.
All
Good to
Peace,
see
right.
you,
peace. How
man.
you doing, brother? Peace. Good to see
I
you.
mean,
I'm good now.
They
So,
did a special move for you, D.
yeah.
Special move, special open move for D to get on the yard. All right, man.
No
Go
doubt.
ahead, man. Come on.
recall. Um, so Payne, you're making the transition from jail to prison,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I want you to just sort of put yourself back in, that day where they transported you to prison. I'm sure you're in shackles. They have you come out of the bus. You walk in
Yeah.
there. What was your first impression as
My
you sort
first
of, oh,
my
they
first
opened the door
impression
and you went through it?
My first impression going from jail to receiving, I never forget. Before you leave the jail, they put you in this little holding tank that the buses get ready to come get you, right? And it was a dude who just came from a prison, transferred from a prison to the jail. He was coming back to go through like work release, right?
Hmm.
And he was like, "You about to go penitentiary?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, what you got?" I was like, "I got 8." He said, "I just did 8. You be all right." He said, "How old are you?" I was like 20. I was 20 at the time. He said, "Oh, you all right? You got another bid in you." And I was
Damn.
like, "What?" And then I was like, "What?" And I remember, I never forget that. I remember everything he had on. He had the Timbs with the Timberland print all over him, and he had an orange and yellow and white striped shirt. I never forget that. That was over a decade. That was, jeez, that was a minute ago. But I remember that. And then, so we get to Mecklenburg. I go from the jail to Mecklenburg Correctional Center. It's a receiving facility in Virginia. And the first thing I remember is that shit was so hot. They didn't have it was an old penitentiary. So they didn't have no AC and stuff. And you could buy a personal fan, and they had a fan in the pod, the common area, right? So I remember going into the cell. It was so hot, bro. Like everybody was just walking around like boxers and boots. Like it was crazy. So I get in there and I go down to the cell, and my cellmate is a dude from New York named AR. You know what I'm saying? He go, yo, what's up, homie? What's up, homie? He come in, he ain't got no shirt on. He got a jumpsuit tied around his waist. Everybody hot. He like, yo, what's up, home? What's your name? Tell him my name. We dap up. You know what I'm saying? Boom. He get the kick. He say, hey, look. You know what I'm saying? Holler at me, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, I run this shit. You know what I'm saying? I run this shit. He kept saying it. I remember. Now I never forget that. He go, I run this shit. Holler at me. Holler at me. He really didn't. But you know what I'm saying? I know like New York dudes, while you in there, they the funniest dudes. They the funniest dude to be around because they got high energy. They always, got stories to tell. They want to talk to you and stuff. So I was kicking, but my cellmate was cool. And that's one thing. I never didn't have a cool cellmate. My whole, you know what I'm saying? My bunk mates when I was in the dorm and all my cellmates, everybody was cool. I remember all of them. So I'm in there with him and I'm in prison. So I remember as soon as I get there, they call for child, like transportation got us there like right before dinner or something like that. Something crazy. I remember the bus ride was long as hell. It was like 6 hours of some crazy shit with handcuffs on. Wow. So we go to child and I'm walking with AR. He's showing me like how to move around and stuff, right? So I learned that he was putting a little extra shit on it, like adding extra, like making me try to be extra worried, but it was but he was a cool dude. So he was like, yo, you got to come to the yard. And at first I wasn't gonna go to the yard. At first I was gonna just sit in the cell. I need to think. I need to I need to process this. I was like, man, I done did too much moving around. I need to sit. I need to, focus. Man. But I go to the yard, right? And man, dudes is in the cipher rapping. I'm standing there and I'm looking. Dude was like, and AR is joking with me. I don't notice at this time that he's joking. So he's like, go ahead, boy. And I start rapping. And then he looked crazy. And I go for the whole rest of the rec period for about at that time I did a whole full like 25, 30 minutes straight. You know what I'm saying? And I found my place. You know what I'm saying? Right there. So that put me more into, I had to always rap. Like I had to always be prepared to, because now this is what I do up here. You know what I'm saying? This is just what I do. And the thing about receiving is you come and go. You know what I'm saying? And they sit you down with the counselor and they look at your charges. And your charges dictate what level of spread you go to. So in Virginia, the highest level spread you can go to is Red Onion Prison. It's a level 6. And that's for dudes that kind of stab the police or something like that. If you stab the CO, if you get locked up, it's getting locked up while you locked up. You can't go to Red Onion straight from court. You got to go to Red Onion from prison. And then underneath that is like Nottoway, you know what I'm saying? Other like King Mountain. These is 4 or 5. I go to a 4. So I'm like on one of the high prisons, and dudes is talking about this. I know the difference in between the high and the low level prison because I'm in the receiving and everybody's talking about where they want to go. And they tell me this is your list of choices because you got robbery, you got to work your way down. I don't know what that means or none of that. So I was like, all right, but look, I'm trying to go to school though. That's my mind. My mind was, I want to go to school. I had a diploma, but I wanted to go to college. I always heard you can go to college and prison. They sent me to Augusta. Man, they sent me to Augusta Correctional Center, right? Charlottesville, Virginia, around that area. Bruh. I signed up for the college. This is the criteria. In a high-level prison, this is the criteria to go to college. You got to be 26 or under. You got to have no infractions. And you got to have 5 years or more left on your sentence. So you have to be on a high-level prison with no charges and 26 or under and like a high level. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what people they aim in the college courses at, but like, it seemed like you should be able to be, you know what I'm saying? You had to be 26 or under. So if you were 27, you was hit. Yeah. You know, like you couldn't even take it. And then they canceled the college courses altogether. So I'm at Augusta. And Augusta made me nervous pulling up. because they had so much barbed wire on these fences. It was like Saw. It was like they had the barbed wire all up the fences. Then they had the gap with all the barbed wire in the gap, and then another fence. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see that before. And this was kind of like taller buildings. These buildings had 3 floors, and it kind of looked like an apartment neighborhood, kind of a little bit. It looked like where the Jeffersons live almost, but kind of shorter. That's what I thought of when I first saw the buildings at Augusta. I thought moving on up. It looked like it looked like that. It's crazy. I say that, but if you saw it, you'll know what I'm talking about. They take you to a orientation when you get here in the medical room, and you know what they tell you in here? They was like, "Don't have sex. It's AIDS all over here." Like wow. that was the whole meeting. That's what they talking about. I'm like, what? No, it was such a big issue. They had to sit people down and talk to them about it. So I'm tripping. I'm like, nah, they ain't tripping. I go in the cell. I go in the pod. I'm in D pod, cell 41. I'm in D41. Wow. I go in cell 41. It's right up. When you go in the top tier, it's right up the steps. I'm at the corner, right? I'm like right at the steps. I can see everything. You know, I go in there, my cellie, this dude named Supreme. Preem had 50 years for a shooting, but Preem got locked up where I got locked up in the 757. And where we were at in the prison, this is the funniest thing about prison, jail, and stuff. Dudes beef in their city. And when you get into jail, you separate by neighborhood. When you get into prison, in a state prison, you separate by city. So now you're cool with dudes you were just beefing with in the jail because y'all the only people from y'all city. So you have to be cool with the people you just fought in the jail. You gotta be cool with them because y'all a group now.
So it wasn't racial.
No.
It wasn't that it was the city you were from. That's who you sat with for meals, for example.
At least in Virginia, I'm gonna say this: prison is not racially separated in Virginia, like it may seem on like certain TV shows and stuff like that, like where it's like color coded. Only the black people hang with the black people. Nah, it's really about where you from.
Interesting.
Now they had areas in there, but it wasn't that many of them. I mean, it wasn't at Augusta. It was a decent clique of them, but them dudes was everywhere. But it wasn't like it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? After that, it broke down to now religion. Religion, that's a whole different thing. If you want to talk about separation, the difference between the gods, the 5% nation, you know what I'm saying? I studied 5% culture in there, the Sunni Islam, the Nation of Islam, the Christians, the more science. Like this was all like this. There was actual issues. I'm talking about real live. I'm talking about situations and problems. I'm talking about you with church.
Peace King, you know what it is.
Yeah. Hey.
Peace King, you know what it is.
Hey. So we would cipher. We would call cipher. You know what I'm saying? Where we, go over your knowledge, your mathematics, your
lessons, man.
Yeah. And I bring that up because that was a big part of what helped me become who I am. Because my enlightenment, Victor, see reality, him giving me the degrees, my rights attribute, it helped me want to read and be better at speaking and communicating. He taught me to want to be better at, you know what I'm saying? I learned that in there.
Exactly.
So I said in a song one time, y'all know my story, my college was jail. I learned that the soldiers take over where the scholars have failed. Because I said that because I really went to college in jail. Like I tuned my mind up through doing that. But there were situations where like he would do stuff like we'll walk the yard, and it'd be a Christian brother. He'd be like, "Hey, peace, King, peace on the man. Can I ask you a question?" And the Christian brother like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And then they keep bringing his Bible out because he know what time it is. It wasn't no gangbanging. Dude will pull up on you and check your religion, and then dude would have to. That would be a real.
You gotta show him proof. You gotta show him proof.
Yeah, you have to.
You gotta show him proof.
And at Augusta, I was in a situation where if you wasn't right in that, if you didn't know what you were talking about, it was always a dude that was going to walk up on you and check you on that, and it would be aggressive, and it would make you
get that universal beat down.
Yeah, so
get that universal beat down.
Yeah, and that molds you a certain way. That molds you a certain way. So you're not just running around trying to rap every rap song, or trying to, you're not gambling all the time, not doing all this all the time. You got to stay sharp, because you know, like, I could get checked. I could get, like, you know what I'm saying? I could get checked if I'm on my square, if I'm not on my stuff,
So,
I could get, you know what I'm saying?
so
That, but hey,
Peace, Almighty. Not to interrupt you, but I just want to ask you a couple of things on that, right?
oh
Our
yeah,
audience,
definitely.
our audience ain't really going to be able to catch like everything you're talking about or understand that like immediately. You know, I understand the language, right? We went through the same school of thought, the same spiritual system. We studied the same thing. My name Divine for a reason. Like you know, you broke down your enlightenment and all that. How did I want to ask you real quick to bring it back so people do understand what you're saying? How did knowledge of self or this high level, high science and level of information dealing with mathematics and dealing with alphabet and dealing with the universe, how did that influence your lyricism? In
Oh,
prison,
okay. So
while you was in prison.
yeah, yeah. So everything I did, because when Victory C met me, I was rapping, and he was like, if you're gonna say something, it got to be right and exact. Each one teach one according to his or her own knowledge. What that
That's right.
means is, if you know something positive, you know peace. If you wrong if you don't give that. I'm wrong if I don't tell you right. If you know what I'm saying, to my knowledge, if I know right, I'm wrong if I don't get that to you. So while I'm writing, I'm thinking, what's the best thing I could tell them coming from your situation? Like, how can I communicate with you? You know, so it was important for me to be able to related information as I got it, because it done so much for me. So why would I not want that for you? Like, you know, it puts you in that frame of mind that each one teach one. Like, it's our duty to, it's my duty for me to get this. You know, it's my duty for me to, you know, give it to the best way I can. And it did so much for me because, like I said, it made you sharp. It made you understand how important it was to sharpen your sword. You know what I'm saying? When I say sword, I mean that's your knowledge, that's your information, that's your
Your mind,
ability
your
to,
mental, straight up.
yeah, that's your mental, that's your
What,
ability to be
did you
able
get?
to.
What year did you get knowledge of self?
2009.
2009. So I've been studying. I've been under the tutelage of knowledge of self since 1992, 93.
That's
I
peace.
got
That's
blessed by
peace.
brothers. I got blessed from brothers out of Brooklyn, New York, and they put me on and they brought me in. And when I first went down, I was based in Rhode Island because I was born in Rhode Island, but then I traveled in
Mm-hmm.
NYC. And when I
Mm-hmm.
first went down, there was nobody from Rhode Island in the federal system. I went to
Mm-hmm.
the feds. I know you went to the state. And then when I got there, I gravitated and started building with the guards from New York, and they put me on, and they, you know, and I built ever since then. I've been building, which is why I carry the attribute divine, and it's refreshing to hear that I'm hearing about you as a lyricist, as a spoken word artist, and then you come on the yard and you express how knowledge yourself and how you know the 5% nation and the guards put you on and kind of corrected your path and put you on a path to where you now have these lyrics
100%.
that are like empowering, and you know it's a freedom dome, the freedom mind. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And you're
100%.
bringing that freedom through your work through lyricism and in reentry space. So though I salute you, and yo, I think that's phenomenal, man. Because a lot of brothers have let go of what they have gotten in prison through knowledge of self, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't express it, articulate it, or even convey the message of the gods and the earths, and you know, having knowledge of self, which is very important, especially amongst us that come from, you know, we coming from the ghettos and the hoods. So it's a different experience when you're not black going through the system, right? Me, Richard, and Seth have had this conversation in the past where it's a different type of experience, right? We
Mm-hmm.
kind of go into the system already aware, if you would, of how it moves, certain things. So it's not really a shock system for us, you know, in a way that it is for other
Yeah.
people that have never been through that
Yeah.
and then experience that. So
So
I
let me
think,
ask
you know, I
you,
commend you and salute you, King.
so,
Peace.
so,
Peace.
so Payne, what did surprise you after, you know, Divine says, you know, guys like you were sort of, you know, knew what you were getting yourself into. and knew what to expect. But what surprised you when you got to prison? What wasn't what you expected?
Honestly, like I I I sat in a cipher in a circle with six brothers, and in that circle there was like 8 or 9 life sentences, and I thought like I couldn't imagine how. I promise you, the wildest dudes are the dudes with the least amount of time. Like when you're in prison, the dudes, the shortest sentences are the ones you gotta watch out for. But them dudes with the double life and the life, you'll be surprised. I was amongst them, and it was like it felt like they was trying to give me instruction to live through me as I went out. They were the calmest. They were the people that helped me keep my head on straight, and that surprised me the most because these dudes is not coming home and they know it. But you wouldn't like the dude you see always fighting or stealing from people, boxing stuff. You come to find them dudes got like 10, 11 years or something. And the dude that you see like laid back in the cut, you know what I'm saying, dropping jewels on you, he got triple life. So I'm thinking like you would think, you know what I'm saying, these dudes would be wild. It wasn't like that because they learned that, okay, if I'm gonna do my time, I'm gonna do it as comfortable as possible, keep these people off me as much as possible. So I'm gonna just chill. I'm gonna do my thing. They're not gonna search my cell that much because I've been here forever. You know, you learn how to operate within that environment, and just seeing how people have settled in life, like you understand that this is where you're gonna be at, and then hearing people's stories, and then hearing who they were. You know.
Yeah, so that's like a big difference between jail and prison too.
Mm-hmm.
You have people in prison, it's sort of like a society,
Mm-hmm.
people who are living there and they're going to be there for a while and they can't deal with the drama and the chaos every day. They'll never make it through 50 years. They want to relax, they want to sleep at night.
And
Whereas in jail, it's so chaotic and it's so temporary and people aren't living there. In prison, it's different, right?
I don't care who you are, where you been. And I said this earlier. I don't know if Devon was on here when I said this. When you know a dude just went to court and you heard he just got 50 years and he's coming back into the cell next to you, you don't feel comfortable. Even though you don't know what he's gonna do. You don't think he may not do nothing. I don't care who you are. If you sitting somewhere, if you in the jail and the dude that they put in the cell with you just went to court and you hear, hey, your man's coming back to the cell, they just gave him 50 years. It's gonna make you uneasy. And that's not even your time. It's so much that when you hear somebody else got it and he's walking or he's about to come in there with you, you like, dang, man. It makes you put your guard up because you're like, I don't even know what this dude is going. I don't even know what type time he's on, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know where his mind can he handle that. And you have to prepare yourself for if somebody else can handle that time because he might try to take that on you. Yeah. Or he might break down and you might gotta pat him or you might gotta be the dudes I talked to that like I didn't have the advice for them, but they just needed something. They needed somebody to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Megan just said something. Megan, who's here with us and who's a friend, Payne, she just wrote such a beautiful insight, Payne. And then she says, the lifers I've had the pleasure of meeting, which that phrase alone is a pretty amazing phrase for someone to express. The lifers I've had the pleasure of meeting. Most people have never met a lifer.
No lifer, yeah.
Certainly wouldn't be referring to the experience as being a pleasure, but I can relate exactly because I've met a lot of lifers. And like Megan says, they're some of the most calm, kind, philosophical people I've ever met. They're also some of the wisest people and meditative and introspective and soulful people I've ever met.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you get forced, like, to go outside of yourself. You got an elbow, right? Like, I mean, I think I never had to experience that, but no matter how much time you do, whether it's a day or 100 years, you got to figure out a way to get through it, right? But I talked to a lot of guys that had elbows that, they say for the first 2 years, basically, they just didn't even get out of bed. Like it was just like, you know, I can't do nothing. Like I'm gonna be here for the rest of my life, you know. And then you process it, and then you figure it out, and then you go inside and you figure out ways to, you know, to live at least, you know, spiritually outside of the wall, you know. And that's how you get to it. And that those are benefits, you know what I mean, to life, not just to the world. You know, most people in the world never get that opportunity to have that time, right?
So that leads us to this episode's lightning round, Seth. You just inspired me. Quickly, which is to say the first thing that pops into your head, and make it like one sentence if you can.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of big talkers in this room here. So that one sentence is not going to be easy, I recognize, and particularly for me. But what is the greatest or most important piece of wisdom that you gained while you were down? What was that one thing that you took away from it that maybe you never would have learned about yourself, about life, about whatever, that you gained? What wisdom did you gain that was most important while you were down? Divine, you have something.
Yeah, to have an unbreakable belief in yourself. Like no matter what is going on around you outside, externally, it's all about how you process things internally, right? Because it dictates your path and how you think and how you move. And I was somebody who externally in the free world, as they say, everybody gave up on me. So I was there by myself alone, had to figure out my pathway, how to survive, how to make money inside prison to do that. But I never gave up, you know, I never gave up the belief in myself that I could do it. So that made me find ways to do it.
So it's, in a way, you're saying that you discovered your real inherent value while you were in prison.
Absolutely.
That's pretty heavy. Seth, what about you?
That every tragedy carries with it the seed of an equivalent benefit.
Yeah.
That's a good one. For me, I had sort of this revelation that I tend to look at things in black and white, you know, very binary, and people are good or they're bad or they're evil or they're not evil. And I came to understand that morality is a much more nuanced thing, and it's not black and white at all. You know, I saw people who were in prison, you know, that cheated on their taxes, and some people thought they were animals, and other people said everybody does it. You know, what is this person? Payne, what did you learn? That one thing, the most valuable thing you came away with?
Mine are more tactile. I learned how to routinely do something every day, and I can wake up now without an alarm clock.
Without an alarm clock, did you say?
Yeah, I can. I'm talking about. It's like I could think of a time that I got to wake up, and I wake up. I don't know how I do it.
I've never used an alarm clock. I always wake up. But let me ask you, did you discover your ability and love and the power of your writing? Did that come out of your prison experience?
No. I've been rapping since I was like 12, 11. I'm talking about I rapped in the era where if you said you could rap, people wanted to hear you.
Yeah.
Like now everybody says they can rap. You know, everybody can't rap. Everybody says they can now. Like it's not a thing. Like if I say right now, I think you probably rap, Richard, because the way it goes, I could be like, yeah, I rap. You be like, yeah, so do I. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but I grew up in a time where there were people that did it and there were people that listened to you do it.
Yeah.
Now it's everybody rap.
So you think, so you're telling me, if I'm hearing you right, that the world has a place for a 67-year-old balding
telling me there's a chance
white guy can make it as a rapper? Are you telling me that?
What?
Somebody drop Adrian, drop a beat.
100%.
Beat on him.
Mr. DJ, kick it.
Yeah. What? You'd probably make it before I would. What?
Hey, Payne, how much like was the stuff that you were actually speaking about and rapping about from 11 when you started to 1920, whenever it was that kind of you recognize that I can bless people with my words, you know?
So
is it night and
day?
It was
the barbershops and the grown folks. It was like if I came out, they was like, hey, there go Kim's son right there. I was Kim's son. When your mama's known in the street, your name is her and son. Like when the streets know your mama, oh, that's Kim's son right there. So they were like, they always had me rap and stuff. So that was always like I had like, and then I don't care where I'm at. Like I learned early, man. Everywhere is the stage. You could be a star anywhere. Your world, you know what I'm saying? You a star where you're walking at. You know what I'm saying? And I took that into prison, and I walked the compound feeling like a star because everybody know how I got down. You know what I'm saying? They do what I did. I made it through time becoming a star.
That's dope.
Well, you were not concerned going into prison with that sort of self-confidence or ego that people wouldn't appreciate that, that you would be coming across too cocky, maybe?
Honestly, man, I've always been like a cool dude. Like I'm talking about like I've made way more friends than enemies.
Yeah.
Way more friends than enemies. And anybody I've ever beefed with, it was never for nothing me personally. It might have been where I lived at or over a group. Like if there has very, very been few individual enemies to me.
You
even
get
to the
along
point
with
where,
everybody.
yeah, I've always been that. I come with good energy, I guess. And that's one of my biggest blessings.
So let me ask you this, man. So like everything that you talk about now and that you rap and lyricize about now, I mean it's real, it's positive, like it's all of that, right? I imagine it wasn't always like that, right? Like
Yeah. What? Of course not.
Yeah, I mean
it was more. Yeah, it was more. But even at the same time, even when I was younger though, I always like to talk about the mind state. Why I'm finna snap on you right now. Why I'm finna do this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's like I honestly that I always felt that. I always knew why I was doing the bullshit I was doing. I always knew why I was doing it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had a different view of morality. Like I honestly felt like if I ain't riding nobody from the neighborhood or nobody, you know what I'm saying? Them other folks. I felt like it was just different. I felt like it was different people. Then my people was somebody, you know what I'm saying? I felt like, oh, that wasn't even us. You know what I'm saying? So I honestly, in my mind, I wasn't even robbing nobody. You know what I'm saying? Everybody I know was cool with me. Like that's how I felt. And it's weird, but like
Do you still feel that way? Do you still feel that way?
Everybody's a people, everybody's person. Like it's called, I read about this, it's called indexical self-awareness. Everything indexical self-awareness. It's a doctor named Ingar Lund from like Sweden or something. She broke down the brain and how you.
Sweden.
Oh, hey. So basically, what she said is everything and how you perceive things and get information is based upon your immediate surroundings, and like you learn outwardly. You know what I'm saying? And thing that comes in to you is filtered through your lenses. So if you grew up in the same 10 blocks, everything that in your life that has happened to you happened within these 10 blocks, like all the way up to adulthood. That's how you see life. That's all. That's what you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Put it like this. When you first came home from prison, you notice that everybody started like looking familiar. Like I noticed like when I see dudes, I'm like, do I know dude? Like you've seen so many men faces.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Do I know you? Like you're starting to look at people's faces. You're trying to you look at people's eyes because you had to. I gotta look at your eyes. I gotta see what type of time you're on when I walk in the room. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I have a different kind of awareness. I sleep with the TV on. When it gets too quiet, it makes me nervous. I wake up. You know why? In the penitentiary, when shit was real quiet, somebody was doing some bullshit. So you kind of, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of, I have a different kind of awareness, and it made me look into awarenesses, like how I see shit.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. This is often the funniest thing we ever talk about. And on the yard, there's times when you laugh. People like often are surprised, that people who have been in prison, they talk about that they had fun at times. It was bad, but out of that badness, what did you eat while you were in prison? Did you do your own microwave cookery, or did you have your own
so
recipe?
Look, I'm gonna tell you how the breakdown is. See, in the pod, we had the pod chef, and what you do is when you go to the store, like we would make we'll make these teriyaki noodles. I'm gonna tell you how to make them. You take the ramen noodles. No, you don't take the. You heat the water up. You put about. We had the big clear bowls you could buy off Commissary, and you take the water. You fill like this much into it. You heat it up till it's boiling. Then you take the unbroken one or two unbroken or 1.5. You break 1.5. Put 2 noodles in it until it breaks up. Don't let it cook. Just get it to break up from the brick. Drain the water. Then you take some butter packs from the chow hall. When you go to dinner, you get everybody butter packs. You put the butter in there. You take your spoon and you whip it around. Then you heat it in the microwave for 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. We got a dude that stole some soy sauce from the kitchen. We put some of that on there. Onions and green peppers that you done got from the kitchen, man. Chop it up. Put that in there, and you keep whipping it. And you put it in there for like 2 more minutes, but 1 minute at a time. Then you whip it, put it back in there 1 minute, then whip it again. And then it should be about done, So and then you put a tuna in there or a mackerel. You know what I'm saying? You drain the oil out the mackerel, whip that in there. What? I eat it now. What? What? That joke was hidden. So, but what you do is they had the pot. If you like, let's say you playing spades or we might be in rapping, we might be in the cipher. What I do is I go to the cookman bed. You give him a honey bun, $1 item. Get him an iced honey bun, and I put my 2 noodles, my fish, he got the butter packs. I put my bowl, and he'll make it for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then when we done rapping or whatever we're doing, playing cards or whatever, I got my bowl, you know what I'm saying, sitting on my bed with the top on it. It was always somebody in the pod you could pay. Like, you had sweatpants. It was no disrespect to nobody. It was the gay dude that was on the end. You could give him $2 and he'll put pockets in your sweatpants. He'd take material from something else and make pockets in your sweatpants. It was no situation where like there was a transgender man in the pod. Nobody ever treated him bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Nobody ever no, he was cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? He sold the clothes. It was never nobody messing with him. It was no he took a shower by himself. But that's what it was. Yeah, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? What? No, yeah. Like, you ain't getting in the shower with me. But he knew that. Like, he'd be like, who got next in the shower? And everybody knew when he called next, nobody getting in there with him. You just get after him. You know what I'm saying? So that's how that was. But it was never I bring this up because I hear a lot of misconception about that. Like, oh, these dudes are just getting stomped out in the corner, or is dudes getting like raped. It wasn't really that. It wasn't really that. The activity that happened like that, dudes was in relationships and stuff. It had Jerry Springer drama. If anything, there'd be some old wild like love triangle stuff. Like, what is going on? Like, it was never. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying it never used to be like that. But as it stood, like when I was in there, it wasn't no like, you know what I'm saying? Dudes getting pinned down. There wasn't no stuff going on like that. If anything, it was more like Jerry Springer and Maury and stuff. Like,
When you bring that up, man. I my first day on the compound, I'm walking in still fresh, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I did a year.
Seth, just be careful. I don't know where you're going here, but just be careful.
I appreciate that. So I go in. I got my bedroll still as I'm walking, just like going, what the hell? Like, my first time in big boy prison, like, and I don't know what to expect or whatever. I'm walking in. We all got our brown khakis on, right? And I see this woman walking out of the unit, or what I think was a woman walking out of the unit, wearing the same colored khakis as me. And honestly, like, she didn't look bad. And I was like, first thing I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, this is a co-ed prison. This isn't going to be so bad.
Oh, but I will tell you this. I had a happy time, and it's weird when I tell people that have never been locked up why I was so happy. It sounds weird. I remember the day we got the holiday packages, the same day where I had a laundryman, the dude that worked in the laundry room, and you pay him, he'll get you, and you write down what you want, he'll get it for you. So my holiday package came, and my secret whites came. My 4 fresh tees, my 4 fresh boxes, and my 4 fresh pairs of socks. And I had 2 extra pair of double XL boxes that I would wear over the top like shorts, and they all came. I felt so fresh. I was like, oh, I had my food. I had all my holiday packs. I had the fresh whites. What? Like, oh, man, I was so happy, man. I was like, yo, man, I don't know why. I felt so good because I was like, all right, yeah, I got my whites. You know what I'm saying? Like, When I tell people about that, they like, what? Like what?
Yeah,
Man,
never did
people don't know.
never
When
did
you get
boxer
fresh
shorts. Never did boxer shorts bring a person so much pleasure.
Yeah, when you
Exactly.
get fresh whites.
You know,
All
we've talked about this in the past on the yard, how it always, to me, that's like one of the big surprises, is how certain guys were so conscious of like that their pants should be perfectly pressed, and they would pay guys to, to
Yeah.
iron their socks and their sneakers. I never knew that you could wash sneakers. And there was this one guy, he was a fucking genius when it came to washing sneakers. This guy, he was an artist. This guy, you couldn't find a molecule of dirt on your 10-year-old sneakers when he was done. And you'd pay him a couple of tins of mackerel, and and I used to go, who gives a shit? Like, why does anyone care what they look like? It's just a bunch of guys. I don't have to impress anybody here.
And then we had you had the state clothes and the state boots, but then you could order the Levi outfit and the work Timberlands. Oh my gosh! If you had so what you had to do is you had to get a couple Levi outfits, and then we wore like the light blue type like button up shirts, and then state jeans and brown boots and orange hats. And then they had a state denim jacket. But then you could get the Levi's jeans and the Levi's jacket and like a denim type shirt and like the darker brown belt. What? And what?
You look like the Fonz.
Hey, look, you can have your state closed days, and then maybe on your visit days you have your Levi outfit on, and then dudes come back from the visit, they still got the Levi's on and they cologne oil. You know how we got the oil? The Muslims could order prayer oil, but the catalog where they ordered the prayer oil, they was ordering cologne. And the Muslims had oil, and you bought your oil from the Muslims. Oh man, it was you had an oil. If you had an oil selection in your locker, what?
Yeah.
Dudes would go to visit, and they'll come to you like, "Hey man, you got that oil? Hey man, let me get 2 suits. I'll let you get a couple dabs of oil." What? Oh man, you don't understand. You had high moments when this was your world. You had high moments.
Yeah,
like,
it's perspective, man. Right? All perspective changes. So you hold on to. I remember the strawberry cookies in county jail, like the ones that are just like, full of tons of garbage and all that. But like, somebody get a pack of those, or you get a pack and share with everybody. It was a good day. You'd be all right.
Did y'all drink coffee? Remember how important coffee is in there?
Oh yeah.
What?
I learned how to drink black coffee in prison.
Cadillac.
Black coffee. Straight
I
black.
couldn't use that.
We called it John Wayne. We called it John Wayne.
That's what I did. I couldn't eat that powdered stuff. It was disgusting, So every morning I would make myself, it was very nice. I'd wake up, make myself a nice cup of coffee, and I'd sort of like shut everybody else up, out, and
maybe have a honey bun every once in a while, just living the dream.
And what do I got going today, Rich? What's special for today? And it was the same as what it was yesterday, but I started the day with my coffee.
And I noticed, like, I played Scrabble a lot, right? I play every tabletop for real, but like, you notice when somebody said, what state were you incarcerated? I was in Virginia. I know that when let's say you play chess, whatever you play, there's a hierarchy in that. Like, there's the best dude, and you can't just play the best dude. You got to get verified by somebody else that you can even play this person. So me playing Scrabble, I'm like, yeah, I play Scrabble. They were like, oh, you think you could beat him? I thought I was good until I played somebody in prison.
Yeah.
When they sit me, I sat down and I played this dude named Philly. Of course, he's Philly. Man, he beat me so bad. I didn't know how to manipulate the letters, and he said, I ain't never playing you again. And I spent like a year trying to get good enough to play Philly again. And now, like, I can see it like he saw the board. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I thought my life growing up, I knew how to play Scrabble. No,
Did you ever get a rematch at the title?
I ain't never get hit a shot at that title, but I got my own. I got some titles and some other spreads. But
it's funny.
Until you play somebody in prison or something, you don't know how to play.
It's funny. I play guitar, so that I became known as, he plays guitar, and also crossword puzzles. I was the best. And I was
Hey.
silly. And, you know, oh, I'm good at crossword puzzles. And I used to smoke those people. You know,
Yeah, and that was your thing. That like,
that was
and you
my
gotta
thing.
have
That
your
was my
thing.
whole identity. You
Yeah,
know,
that was the thing.
that and my
The
cup of
king of
coffee.
crosswords.
That's what got me
Hey,
through, you know,
hey, Seth,
my
were you hooping
coffee
in
and
there,
my
Seth?
crossword rep.
We're
Were you
changing
hooping in
you. We're changing your nickname, Richard.
Were you hooping in there, Seth?
Yeah, for sure. I got real bad out of shape in county jail, but like, you know, playing in Chonglers and trying to play handball and all that. But yeah, I mean, it's
Handball you played?
handball.
I
Yeah, that's
can't
all you can do in
imagine
county.
you playing handball.
Literally slapping the ball with your hand, playing in flip flops. Like,
Yeah.
You
yeah.
must look like a praying mantis playing handball.
Mhm.
I was actually pretty good once I got the hang of it. I was like, at first I couldn't even hit the damn ball with my big
Did you
paw.
guys have a league? Did y'all have a league and tournaments?
Yeah.
We had
That was real
softball leagues.
big. That was real big.
Yeah, for sure.
And
No,
and
3-point
after the
shootout.
basketball tournament, I was like, man, we should do a rap battle and have a bracket, man. So another
idea.
one of the gods, another one of the brothers, his name was Truth or Square. He put it together, and oh my god. So look, this what happened. Sometimes even your own brothers do things that are questionable. So he put together a competition. It was $25 at the commissary, the bag. They brought it out to the yard, and that was a big deal. Everybody brought it out there. The CO let it ride because you're not supposed to move commissary items. You know what I'm saying? That's a violation. That's an infraction. So he let it ride. He carried the bag out under the coat. You know what I'm saying? They had it tucked under a coat, like, and it was a lot of like summer sausage and tuna. So it's like thin items. You could make $25 compress as much as possible. I ain't want no stamps in the bag, all food. They're like, okay, so look, they bring it to the yard, and it's about 8 dudes set up in a bracket, and mind you, I'm in 330 building, Trooper Square in 350 building. It doesn't dawn on me that you done made a deal with this dude named Beans. He in 350 building that he gonna win the bag, and y'all just gonna take it back into the pod. You ain't want to give up this money anyway. So I smoked Beans. Everybody to this day was out there, and I talked to dudes on Facebook about this. I smoked Beans, and they kept that money. And this is my dog. That Trooper Square was my homie too, man. He took that money like, and they kept the money in the building. I was so mad. Everybody was out there. It was to the point the lieutenant came out there. He let it rock. It was so entertaining that from that event, they hired this dude called an offender workforce development specialist. And what he was supposed to do is teach dudes skills on how to get jobs and do interviews and stuff like that. This is when I got to a low level, when I had like 5 years left. When I got down, and I had like 4.5, probably like you go into like the reentry penitentiary. So he used me and my bro Stacy, who I'm still cool with today. I just posted a picture of me and him from in prison performing to out here doing the same thing. Like, and it matches up like the picture. I'm standing over here, he's standing over here on both sides. It's crazy. But they set up programs for us to perform, to bring the population in to go to the classes. Then it grew from that to the point where the warden set up that we would perform during a block movement, but we weren't performing for the population. We were performing for social workers, probation officers, to teach them about people re-entering into society. So we had whole 30-minute concerts and sets with material based upon coming home, but the shit was hard. So we would do, and they did it every quarter, once every 3 months. You know, people would come to one, and 3 months later, they would be able to repeat a song they only heard once.
Wow.
So that's why I knew, I was like, I got to take this out here.
Yeah.
So I started hitting the open mics. I admit this, I've been rapping my whole life. I never did spoken word till prison. And how I did it was this dude named Mr. White, the offender workforce development specialist. He said, I want to do a program and I want these type of things. He said hip hop, skits. And at the bottom, it says spoken word. And I'm in there. We are the best rappers on the compound, everybody in this room. And everybody was like, yeah, we're going to do a song. We're going to do, I was looking at spoken word. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And I was bullshitting. I never did spoken word. I knew what it was. I heard about it. I never thought I could. I was just bullshitting. I didn't think he was going to call me on it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that too. And then I had to go back to the pod and write one. That was the most nervous thing I ever did, performing my first poem. But come to find out, I happened to do it all right. And maybe I'm supposed to do this. Like, you know, because I did the first poem and everybody stood up. The first dude named Burger, who I'm still cool with now. He said, "Bro, I got goosebumps." He walked up to me with his arm out like this. The watch commander hugged me, and they ain't supposed to touch me like that.
Yeah.
And that joint was crazy. And then I noticed I was good. This is how you know you good. They gave me free movement. I was roaming around. I was moving shit for people and everything, just because I could play with words.
Yeah.
I could call St. Bride's Correctional Center right now. I've been back 5 times since I've been home to speak. I tell people this story even in front of the warden in there. And it gave me free movement just because I was nice. You know what I'm saying? And they can't deny it. Yeah.
All right, listen, we got to wrap things up here. This has been another great evening.
Yeah, man.
And Payne, the poet, starting it off with your amazing poem, your spoken word performance was pretty moving. And we're really very appreciative that you would come and join us here. And we hope you'll come back and just hang out and be with us, because it was great to have you.
Sure.
Thank you. And Seth, many, many more birthdays that we can all share together.
My birthday, July 22nd.
Boom.
I'm a cancer squad. Cancer
All right.
Cancer season.
All right.
Yeah.
Happy birthday in advance, Divine. I think he got bumped again.
Yeah. He's got free movement today.
He's moving around a lot. He's moving.
He must be smoking word too, man. Shoot.
He's just riffing, on the blogosphere here. We appreciate everybody joins us. The idea here, like we did tonight, is to connect people and to hear, different people, different experiences, what they went through. But ultimately, there's a lot more that connects us than separates us. We need to be there for each other, because if we don't do it for each other, nobody's going to do it. That's for sure. But I believe it's a good bet to count on folks with records and mostly murderers. Murderers don't recidivate. They do it once and they never do it again. They're the safest bet there are, and they're great people. We will be back next week, of course, and we look forward to having everybody. Payne, could you give us one sentence, the one sentence that you've written and performed that that really just says who you are as a man, as a writer, as an artist, and take us out on that.
Though I've been charged and convicted, I will never let them sentences claim me. So now powerfully as a poet, I pen pages persistently. I constantly see sentences changing into this right here.
All right. That's a great way for us to say goodnight, everybody. Be healthy,
peace.
Be safe, and thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you next time on The Yard. Everybody have a great night.
Thanks, yo. Payne, that was a lot of fun, man. Thanks.
No doubt.
All right.
Thank you.